and welcome to our exciting seminar today about ChatGPT and AI writing. We are a little bit early to the webcast here, so we're going to hang out for a couple minutes, say hi to folks who are joining. If you're already here, please drop your name and where you're visiting us from in the comments. We would love to learn a little bit more about who you are and what you have to ask today about ChatGPT. This is going to be a really exciting and informative session, so we're so happy to have you join us here for our inaugural Pi Live webcast. Is this our first one, Ben, that we've done live?
I feel like you've done one and I haven't.
Mm.
Yeah, we started this morning with me being like, where are we meeting? What are we doing? Do we need a tech check? Yeah, it's funny. I'm actually curious if for anyone that's in the chat, how many people have actually used ChatGPT in a proposal so far, like in a live proposal, not just in a testing mode. It would be interesting to see. So I just started using it about 3 weeks ago. Now, of course, it is constantly like hitting capacity right now, and so it's very difficult to get in. But I am certainly debating it as a purchase for my business about whether I would buy OpenAI's paid version to see if this would work for me. So I'm really interested in use cases that people have on it.
All right, so we're seeing that some folks have not used it, but they're excited to learn how it might be helpful. Welcome to everyone. We see some folks here. Hello to Liz, who's one of our Baker's Dozen, deeply involved in Pi already. And who else do we have? From London, it looks like Andrew has already used ChatGPT on a live proposal already. So we've got kind of a diverse array of folks who are joining us right now. Again, we're going to give it about 30 more seconds to make sure that everybody's able to jump on, and then what we'll do is introduce ourselves, give you a little bit of background about ChatGPT, and help you just start getting your sea legs under you. And just so you know, this is going to be a series, and we don't have specific dates set up for what's coming next, but we're going to continue this conversation because it's certainly not just a one and done talk as we have these conversations about AI. Hello to Victoria joining us from New Jersey. Looks like we've got Lucy. Hi, Lucy. It's great to see you today.
Yeah, like just to add on to Kathryn's comments, like the good news about Pi is that we actually have a number of AI enthusiasts and machine learning enthusiasts inside the community. And so we're hoping to convince them, we're just working out dates, whether they can come and present and talk about this kind of stuff. Today's session is really going to be very much like two proposal experts hunting around on the system. I have 2 use cases that I've already implemented in my business. And I'm hunting around for more use cases. As a matter of fact, someone today in the Pi community, Stacy, gave me a new use case about cleaning up library content using ChatGPT, which I was not really thinking of because I didn't want to cut and paste 10,000 answers into it. But there's a possibility of getting that in as well. So.
Love it. Love it. All right, Ben, I think we've got the folks who are going to join us. And as other people trickle in, I feel comfortable adding them in and watching as the LinkedIn comments continue. Just so everybody knows, a little bit of housekeeping for you. If you have a specific question that you want us to answer, don't hesitate, drop it in the chat because I'm monitoring that live. And I would love to make sure that we address anything, any comments, questions, words of wisdom that you have for this presentation. So Ben, why don't you kick it off, give a little intro to the crowd, and then I'll tell them a little bit about myself, and then we'll talk about ChatGPT.
Sure, absolutely. My name is Ben Klein. I'm a co-founder at Pi. So that is a proposal community for individuals seeking to advance their career, advocate for their career, get more information on both the tactical and strategic elements of proposals. I also run a proposal response firm, BK Gemma Consulting. We are currently rebranding. And yeah, wow, how long have I been doing this? Like over a decade, under 2 decades, somewhere in there is my official start. But I have the proud bragging point of submitting 3,300 proposals personally, and so seen a lot, done a lot, had a lot of fun. But yeah, that's me.
Excellent. So a little bit about me. My name's Kathryn. I am a co-founder of Pi. So Ben and I are running this initiative together. I have about 15 years of industry experience in the proposal management and communication sector. And before that, I was a chemist. So I am deeply interested in the scientific aspects of what we have going on here in the coding and in the process improvement pieces. If you have further conversations that you'd like to have about ChatGPT, don't be shy. Join us in proposalindustryexperts.com. Get registered and come on the platform, and we'll be having ongoing conversations there after this discussion today. All right, so we see a lot of people joining us here in the comments from all over the nation. Let's go ahead and get started and talk a little bit about ChatGPT. Ben, shall I share your screen that you've got pulled up?
Sure, absolutely. That'd be great. Thanks,
Okay.
Kat.
So Ben is going to walk us through a little bit of the basics of ChatGPT and some use cases, and then we're going to, if we have time, explore the platform itself and actually run a couple tests. So Ben, take it away.
Great. Do I actually get to control this, or do I? Oh, I do get to control it. Very exciting.
You do. Yeah, you got the power.
I know. SteamYard. Who knew? So AI writing tools. AI writing has actually been around for quite a while. If you have been doing any kind of SEO work or anything like that, you've been encountering AI writers all over the place. So this is nothing new. And for the most part, they're all based off of, and I'm going to throw some acronyms out. They're based on large language model transformers. So the GPT is actually the T in it is transformer, and that's where it comes from. But most of these programs are actually quite simplistic. You've been encountering chatbots all the time when you go to websites and like get help and stuff like that. And for the most part, they're not that intuitive. They're looking for like word searches, and they're trying to like link that information and then come across with another piece of information. Very similar to how a lot of our response tools work, actually. What makes, and actually I'm going to advance the slide. Sorry, I should have probably, we're going to have like 4 pieces on this. There's going to be an intro that we're going to talk about. We're going to go through some use cases that I'm using in my business. And then maybe we'll talk about some other stuff, as well as like what next. I know there's a lot of people who are like, well, this will never replace me, or yes, this will replace me, and I'm worried about it. So we can certainly talk about that. Anyway, so AI writing, again, lots of tools out there. For the most part, they are good. Like the SEO writers and stuff like that for like Jasper or anything, they're remarkably strong. Like you can give them some fair controls and they will write up a good piece of content very quickly. There are like some catches, like if you, a good person like reviewing the work can kind of see someone else is writing this, or a computer is writing this. And so in that regard, people have always looked at like AI writing as a little bit poor. What makes ChatGPT fascinating though is the human reinforcement model. And the idea behind this is that it is constantly taking in feedback from us and using that feedback to like get better at what it does. And of course, as OpenAI has discovered, because they are at capacity, there were a lot of people interested in giving feedback. There are a lot of people that were interested in attempting to like push this forward. And so in that regard, it is learning very quickly and it is changing very quickly. So there are, again, it is possible that like out there in the background, like Google, Meta, almost certainly have something that is the equivalent of ChatGPT. They probably haven't released it to the open market because, of course, without sufficient controls, you can turn these chatbots into really horrible things. So a lot of people say, like, whenever I use ChatGPT and I expose it to writers, they're like, oh, well, it's okay writing. And that is a very interesting comment that I hear from bid writers all the time. And I go to this quote from Stephen King, which is read a lot, write a lot. ChatGPT will read more than you ever will in your lifetime. It has been exposed up to data up until 2020 of this year. And so just imagine like just how much information that is. That it has been exposed to. And now what that means, of course, is you can say, oh, well, it's not being creative. It's not iterating on top of that. True, but the sheer volume has created an ability for it to seem like a really good writer, like a decent writer. And honestly, for our industry, the question is, how good a writer do we really need to be? Like if your proposal is only being scanned by most people in the steering committee for 8 to 10 minutes, are they really going to be hunting through and being like, that was an odd choice of words, right? Like the question is, from a writing standpoint, like, is the messaging, is the communication clear? If it is, then maybe ChatGPT is where you want to be. So that's kind of it. I don't know if that helped, Kathryn, with kind of a quick background. Like, is that enough background for you?
Yeah, so I constantly hear from folks, and I think my personal opinion on this is a little bit skewed because I'm always an early adopter of tech, but I
Yeah.
hear from folks this constant um, kind of undermining of these systems and saying like, well, no, it will never do what a human can do. But when I watch a lot of like these YouTube commercials or I see things that have been written by AI, I am convinced it seems like it's written by a human. And this is true not only for literature and writing type examples, but there's also music and art and things that have been created by AI that leads me to believe that humans aren't necessarily as special as we always think we are. And I know that that's a very controversial take, and it's where I live in my own head. So can you address that a little bit? Like what are some of the platform limitations around whether or not this can sound human?
So AI and machine learning typically tend to pick up the biases that we have in humanity. And so when you look at ChatGPT, what you have to realize is the data that it's been exposed to is historical, and it is all the data that we had previously. And so that has all the writing of, kind of a white racial bent, and also a strong inclination to like North American or European text. And so because of that, that's where it's going to make a lot of associations. And so in that regard, you will find that, yeah, like as far as its creativity, it will focus on those things. The associations will make. A great example actually is a video presentation of AI. Kevin Ayers put on a catch-up commercial on LinkedIn. And the idea is he just asked it to make a commercial, like he asked the video system to make a commercial around ketchup. Didn't specify a brand. But because Heinz is so prevalent in the industry as its association to ketchup, like the association is so strong in North American culture, that the commercial ended up looking like a Heinz commercial. Like all the bottles looked like Heinz bottles, all the images looked like Heinz, right? And so that's something that you have to be aware of. Now, how that would show up in language, of course, is the use of idioms, the use of jargon will all be very kind of North American, European, white-centric, because that's the majority of the people. And again, in the human feedback, like I can't remember what the number is. How many downloads does ChatGPT have right now?
It's the most downloaded, it's the most used piece of software that's ever existed.
Yeah, my suspicion is that the vast majority of individuals in that skew, probably white and male and fairly well, like, reasonably well off kind of thing, like middle class to upper middle class and stuff like that. And so that feedback, that reinforcement that it's getting is all around that. And that will impact it as a platform. Like that will change what it can do for you. Did that help?
Yeah, that's really important to know because when we think about machine learning algorithms for even calculating, for example, healthcare allocations, there's lots of these machine learning studies in the past that have shown, racial and gender and class biases when it comes to generating this content, because what is it being fed is information that kind of skews in one direction. So I think that's really important for the viewers to know that the corpus of knowledge that this particular system has ingested is most likely to kind of skew towards a certain demographic. So we want to be mindful of this. Lori has a really interesting comment here. She's saying this is the first product I've really been interested in from everything I've heard about. Yeah, Lori, we're just scratching the surface of what ChatGPT is up to, and certainly there's a lot more to advance here. I also really like Ian's post here. AI doesn't understand the meaning behind what it's writing. It's based on probabilities and statistical models. And here's a podcast. Yeah, absolutely, Ian. If folks want to check out that podcast, grab that link. I think it's a spectacular idea to have additional resources here. So thanks so much. Thanks so much for that. But Ben, I would love to learn a little bit because I know folks that are here want to know what the technical use case is for proposals. And I'm also really curious about how you're using this, and I'd love for you to help us learn about that.
Sure, absolutely. So I started experimenting with it, and I'm actually going to show you my very first experiment. I have refined how I use this use case now. And admittedly, I'm dying to get back into ChatGPT, or I might just, honestly, I might just have to buy a paid version so that I can get more access to it. But the idea is, and I'm redacting this for the sake of my clients, and I'll provide these slides to you because they're probably a little bit small on your screen. But my very first question ever was, I need an executive summary for a proposal about company name and company product. And I gave the actual name and the actual product. And I knew that ChatGPT would look over 2020 data and behind. So I was expecting it to be kind of out of date. And what I've cut out of this is, and this is kind of to Ian's point, that it doesn't understand what it's writing. What it did first is give me 2 paragraphs on what an executive summary was. And then it started writing the rest of it. So it was a very disjointed, like very non-personalized experience. It felt very strange. Because I'm like, okay, well, you're giving me a primer on what an executive summary is, and then you're actually giving me kind of a summation of what this product does in the marketplace. And I'm like, that is clearly like a writer who doesn't understand what's going on. But it wrote something. It was reasonable. It gave me some information around, you know, like some of the main product highlights and everything like that. But I wasn't really satisfied. It was like, I could use this as like an intro, like this is more like sales copy. And I was pretty sure that if I looked back on the Wayback Machine or the Internet Archives, that I would probably find a piece of sales copy that was very similar to this.
Ben, is it okay if I show the folks, like, can I pull up my screen and we can ask the chat bot something in real time? All right, let me grab this really quick. I'm going to show you here. So for example, what did you add in when you asked this question about executive summaries? Can we pick a product?
Sure. Why don't you, it should have enough information on SAP, right? So yeah, so right for SAP, not SAP's product, say SAP Work Manager.
So this is the first time that I've ever used this system, and I'm actually just jumping into it right at the moment. And as we can see here, look, it just starts writing for you. I've never seen anything like this. This is so cool.
So when it's probably pulling this directly from sales text on SAP's website in 2020. It could like pull from a PDF. It could it could be pulling from like static content, right? And so the idea is, now the question is, so this app includes features such as barcode scanning. Okay, so great. It's giving you the highlights of the features. It's not really an executive summary so much as it is an intro to the product. So now, why don't you try this, Kathryn? Ask it to make that more confident.
Okay, so can you make this more confident? Is that what I would say?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so what it's going to do is it's now going to add some superlatives to kind of like indicate like this is something. Yeah. So there's powerful. It's going to add some additional comments, and like the idea behind it is it's using the same system that, like, for example, Grammarly does to indicate whether you are being positive about a subject and stuff like that. And again, going back to Ian's point, this is word correlation. It's like, I recognize that these words are used in confident language, therefore I'm going to like shove them in there, right? Now, the thing is though, so say you're totally unfamiliar with the SAP Work Manager product. So now you're like, can you explain this to an 8th grader, right? Or try.
Okay, tell you what, I'm going to pause here for just a second because we've got a couple of really great questions that are coming down the pipeline. And then let's put a pin in this 8th grader concept because I absolutely love that idea. Okay, this LinkedIn user has a rather basic question. Do you feed it the data you want it to search, or it just searches whatever it can research?
You could do both. The way the first option works is you can just ask it to search, just like we did right now. Like neither Kathryn or I posted anything from SAP Work Manager into that. It just went and looked for that information from its database or from the language that it read. The other option is you can say, can you make this clearer, or can you do something to this? And then you paste in an amount of content. So this is the use case that Tracy actually gave me inside the Pi community this morning for library cleanup. Like the idea that she would just give it a piece of content and then say, like, make this clearer was her way of doing it. And so you could actually like basically level set information based on that, right? So I don't know if you have a piece of content right now, Kathryn, that you can chat, that you can paste in. But
yeah, all that I've got is kind of proprietary stuff from my
okay.
existing job. So, but let's circle back. Let's circle back and look at the difference maybe between those two in a subsequent section. I think that's really useful. Let's take a look here. There's a couple other questions. Nolan asks, can you describe examples of how ChatGPT is displaying racial or gender biases or preferences in its narrative responses? I don't know that we have hard evidence of that yet. We just know that machine learning tends to do this, right, Ben?
So there's, I will try to send a podcast to you, and specifically, it's from Sam Harris, and on his recent series, and it was around the idea: can AI get away from bias? Anyways, and I'll send that to you. And he has someone on who like talks about the examples, but I don't have anything specific to write. But I will make sure that when this goes out, I'll attach that podcast for people to listen to.
Okay, great. Couple more questions here. This one's pretty spicy. Would you need to cite this information since it's not your original thoughts? Ooh, Victoria, I love that. What do we think here?
This is a really tough one, honestly. My feeling is yes, and there were some people who said that they can use automated citers to do it. But so an interesting thing is I run some of this text through Grammarly's plagiarism system. And it often comes back like low percentages, like under 10%. So it's like, yes, I'm borrowing information, but I'm using it in my own different way and stuff like that. So it is a really interesting case that like, would it be detectable? Should you be using it? Yeah, of course. Like I'm a big believer that you should always cite your sources, but it's tough. It's tough to locate where ChatGPT is getting its information from because there's no back check, right? Like you can't even ask it, hey, where did you find this information? Because it just won't tell you.
So Ben, I'm going to ask you a follow-up question on that. How do we know it's right?
Oh, I have a great example of this. So in our presentation, my second use case, I asked it about Schrems 2. So Schrems 2 is a GDPR judicial decision around the EU-US privacy shield. So the idea that like the US had a special relationship with the EU for the purposes of GDPR, and that companies could just assume that the US was being a good partner in protection of its citizens' data privacy. But of course, the US actually has an incredibly strong intelligence requirement for its companies. And so that intelligence requirement would override the protections that would be given to EU citizens. And so Schrems 2 basically said, hey, there is no EU-US privacy law. It invalidated it. But the thing is, that decision came out July of 2020. So the idea is when I asked ChatGPT to write about Schrems, it gave me a fairly reasonable, like it gave me the high level, the two most important pieces. But since then, in the intervening 2 years, Schrems has codified a little bit more understanding around the legal framework that is required to protect EU citizens. And so when I took the ChatGPT's answers to a privacy officer, they're like, yeah, like it's okay, but it's not really accurate. Like it's not necessarily misleading, but it's not really covering the information correctly. And so the idea is this, and again, I hate to keep going back to Ian, but
Ian had good information. Go for it.
So the idea is it doesn't really understand what it's writing. It is just collating and looking for patterns in language. And so when you keep that in mind, it will make inferences. And if you are not familiar with the data set, it may lie to you. So a great example of this is I did a proposal for a local engineering firm, and I wanted to get some information on providing power to underground environments. And anyway, so I asked ChatGPT to write up some stuff around the challenges around this so that I could put it inside the proposal. And then I said, you know what, I'm going to have an engineer review this. And he's like, no, this information is not correct. Okay. It is not accurate. Like it, and he said, like, you know, these problems have been solved. And I'm like, were they solved after 2020? Just thinking that maybe it was like a new thing, and it was just that chat hadn't been exposed to it. And it's like, no, these were solved like 10 years ago. And he's like, I know where this information is coming though, because like this is like academic textbooks. So somehow ChatGPT was indicating that academic textbooks had a higher level of authority than what was actually happening in the real world. So it made that choice, like, oh, I'm making an inference based on this information, which seems to override this like use cases that are occurring in the field and stuff like that. So it can, if you were not familiar with the data set, there is a possibility that chat will lie to you.
Okay, so I'm going to put a banner up here. Source credibility is important. So we need to remember where that information is coming from and kind of think critically about that. I love it. We have a couple other questions here that I want to just kind of dive into, and then we'll probably pop back over to that use case because we've got 20 minutes remaining here. So still, yeah. We still got a lot of time. Mark asks, can you feed it content from a privately held content database from a proposal template library, for example? So can we plug this into our FPIOs, our Loopios, our ombuds? Not yet.
I've heard people say that they've written like really slapshod APIs to like paying ChatGPT, but it really is like it's almost like a flat file transfer done over the internet right now. It's not codified, it's not clean. But I'm told that OpenAI's program, and actually, if you want this use case right away, Jasper AI already has an API that will connect to content libraries.
Got it.
And so you can do this use case already.
So we can do it. It just wouldn't be with ChatGPT. We would do it with Jasper.
Yeah. Javier, I saw in the chat, just made a good point that like this is their light version.
Okay.
That's a full version, and actually Google has a version as well if you're a developer with them, that allows you to access and you can like APIs and stuff like that. So
I think that kind of goes along here with Nolan's question, which is, do we have any insight into what the integration with Microsoft products will look like from a usage? And yeah, I think that's still a black box for a lot of us. And I think based on the fact that there's no API quite yet. And for those of you who don't know what an API is, Ben, it's just the connector between two softwares, right? It's like a code that connects two things.
Someone can explain it far better than I can. I use a shorthand to refer to the integration points as long as it's using like a web service call or something.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, no, I'm not, again, I'm not a professional. I'm not a sponsor or a representative of OpenAI. I have used some of the other writing products and stuff like that. So there are integrations out there. You just have to hunt around.
Okay. And we have a philosophical question, and then we'll dive back into the technical stuff. Are you all ready for this fabulous one from Garrett? If it becomes standard to use AI writing for proposals, do you possibly see a future where someone searching for a solution could use AI to find the perfect solution, eliminating proposals entirely?
I mean,
yes.
Yeah, Kathryn's a big believer in computers selling to computers, and I think that long term, this is kind of where the industry is going. And we sort of see it in HR already, right? Like there are courses that you can take about how to style your resume so that the HR performance system actually picks it up and puts you to the top of the pile, right? There's no reason that someone can't get a tool, and I think there is one out there that will write your resume for you so that it is selected by these tools, especially if you're applying to the federal or state governments or something like that. So there's no reason. I suspect there'll always be a place like in tier 1 bids or incredibly niche bids where individuals will still be needed and stuff like that. But my guess is more and more, like if you're doing very simplistic proposals that are very straightforward, you will probably see like adoption where, yeah, it's just like someone goes out to the marketplace and they connect, like using an Ariba platform or a bid sync or something like that, and they connect to like all the possible vendors, and then the vendors' computers just like, hash it out, right?
Yeah. And if y'all aren't already following Javier, who's in our chat right now, I highly recommend. Javier put up a really great video. I think it was either last night or this morning, where we're talking about the fact that proposal work is not going to go away, but it is going to really transform. And I will echo this expert that Javier had on his LinkedIn this morning. It is not going to happen tomorrow, but our work is going to change in the next 5 years. And that's what Pi is trying to do with series like this, is to make sure you're prepared to understand where the industry is going. Because I've been seeing a lot of conversations from like even college professors saying, well, ChatGPT is eliminating people's ability to write. And I will tell you, Ben and I had conversations before this. Historically, innovation, there's always naysayers for innovation, right? And we have to think critically about adopting it. But I will tell you right now that I'm certain that there are people that thought that the typewriter would rot your brain as compared to writing words by hands, right? And even back in the day, they thought that novels were going to cause young people to go out and be degenerates and like cause the decay of society, because novels were coming out as a new literary format, whereas we had short stories and kind of different materials to consume before. So do I think that ChatGPT is a danger to our profession? Well, yeah, as it exists today, I think it's going to radically transform the way that we do our work. Do I think that societally it's going to lead to some kind of degeneracy? Like, no, not me personally, but I guess there are a lot of variety of opinions on that. Yeah.
All right. Should we?
Okay. You want to launch back into your slides?
Yeah. I mean, if you want, we'll quickly go through things. So I did ask it to make it more confident, and just like we did with Work Manager, it added more superlatives to make it happen. But then I asked it to address the client personally, and I've highlighted these in red about what it actually wrote. So it added a lot of yours. It tried to personalize. And then something that surprised me, I hadn't told it that the client was a utility, but it identified that and then pulled that information in. So it made that reference, utilities such as yours. And then it talked about, a delightful customer. I have no idea where it pulled up that text, but I wasn't too impressed with it. I'm like, I don't really like that text, but whatever. We'll keep
that bolded red one, it's a little salesy.
Delightful customer is one who gets service which is timely, solves the problem, and costs less than they expect. Like,
no duh. Thanks, ChatGPT.
Way to make this personalized. So anyways, but my executive summaries aren't just like a summation of like the product features. I really try to connect them to the client. And so I asked it to do that. I'm like, can you compare the features of product name to the client name mission statement? Because they did have one. And it's like, ChatGPT gave me this. Unfortunately, ChatGPT does not have information on individual companies, but it does. The thing is, it's how you ask. So then the next thing is, can you show me the mission statement of client name and their concerns? And it said, and it brought up this, probably from something that they wrote in 2020. And then I said, hey, how can product name help generate? Like, I just basically pulled one of the lines out of there and said, hey, can you ask it, like, how does our product help this specific aspect of their mission statement? And then it wrote it, right? And it's not, again, it's pretty surface level, but the idea is it's given me a foundation on which to build upon, right? It is very quickly, like the whole course of this took me like 7 minutes, right? And it's already given me like 8 paragraphs of material that I can, massage and gently like move around and stuff like that to make into a better product and stuff like that. So anyways, there was just some interesting stuff, but that was my very first use case. So could I use it for an executive summary right off the bat? Absolutely not. But I could feed it a template and get there with a series of questions. Like I would need, and so now we at Geek Proposals, we've been practicing with like different questioning technique to get us to the answers more quickly and to develop in. And it has been a really good time saver. And honestly, I can see a really strong use case right now. Like if you are in a situation in your proposal shop where you provide different tiers of support based on how important the bid is, I could see for the lower level bids, just giving them ChatGPT, giving them a question template of like how to ask questions to build their executive summary. And then it's like, yeah, send this to ChatGPT. And then afterwards paste the entire summary back in and ask them to like make it confident or neutral or authoritative or informative, or dumb it down because we know their steering committee is mainly made up of managers and not engineers or something like that, right? Like there's just a lot that you can do to create this. So that's my very first use case. And I've
got another comment here. Like, do you mind if we pause here for a couple more comments? There's some really good ones that are coming down the pipeline. Faraz here says, having an API of this that can integrate with existing platforms that personalize digital experiences on the fly based upon the identity of the individual would be great. So what you just said is that makes ChatGPT helps us to customize the content a little bit more thoughtfully. And I really love that comment that Faraz put forward here. We've got a really great question here from Natalie. Could it scan your proposal and pull out key themes to build the executive summary. What do you think? Could you input
My
it that way?
My guess on a paid version, you probably could. ChatGPT has a character limit that prevents like dropping an entire proposal in there, unless you're got a one pager or something like that. So you're limited. Again, this is probably a good use case if like you wanted to use Ink or AI Writer or something like that. AI Writer specifically has like a very large upload system that allows you to do a lot of this stuff. So my guess is this is certainly possible. I haven't tried it myself. As a matter of fact, again, Kathryn, I think that at the end of this month, I'm just going to have to bite the bullet and buy some sort of AI writer.
Yeah, we're just going to have to make it happen. All right. All right. So we have about 12 minutes left. Let's learn about your second use case and where else you think this has value.
So this is the one that we've already implemented, and we are constantly looking for new use cases in our office. But this is rapid research and dissemination. And this is where I talk about the Schrems 2 piece. So I asked it to tell me about Schrems, and it gave me the two main points, which is the breaking of the EU privacy shield, and then the second piece, which was around the fact that like you will have to, the onus is on the companies to investigate the company that they're doing business with about their data privacy and to bring them up to GDPR level through contractual terms, right? So then I said, can you write that as to an 8th grade reader? and it did. It dumbed down everything. It said ignoring their responsibility instead of onus. It said you have to check company or country laws, which was in the previous statement and stuff like that. And then it said legal comments. It does use the term GDPR and doesn't explain it, but whatever. Like it did dumb down it. And I'm a big believer in proposals of not writing at a university level, like writing very low because I don't know who the steering committee is. Going back to Faraz, one of the big dreams that I always have is if I can know the steering committee, if I know who is on that committee and I can write specifically to them, that would be a dream for me.
Yeah, I think there's something really to that, being able to dial in the reading level here at the very minimum for the free version. That's spectacular.
So I have another client in Dakota who provides a software platform for plumbers, electricians, service people. It basically monitors trucks in the field and it provides basic work order systems and everything like that. This is one of my smaller clients. I love playing with them because they're like an in-house shop and they're a lot of fun. But anyways, so I told them I wanted to find out, I wanted to contrast the product features that they had versus their biggest component or biggest competitor. And it, ChatGPT said, blah. Unfortunately, ChatGPT does not have the information on individual companies, but you do. ChatGPT, stop lying to me. So then I said, can you tell me the main features of product name them? I want to find out about the competition. And they came up with this blurb, which clearly comes from someone's sales material or something like that. But I didn't have to look any of it up. And not only that, I'm pretty sure because I could not do a Google search on, I tried these sentences, I tried these paragraphs, and I tried to look specifically for this content and I could not find it. So it is collating data from somewhere. And then I said, hey, what are the criticisms of product name them? Because, that's not going to be published on a shale sheet. And then ChatGPT gave me this fascinating piece where it clearly reviews and found this information for me. And I'm like, this is fantastic. This is the problem with this. So then I'm like, okay, great. Now we've got a strategy on how to address concerns in our product that and we can put them on their back foot when we ask questions of the customer and stuff like that. So that's kind of my second use case, is just this rapid research tool that ChatGPT allows. And again, the information is 2 years out of date. But again, this whole process took me 5 or 6 minutes at most. So
Andrew Loveridge says here also, I've asked ChatGPT for the difference between product A and product B, and looks like this SME really loved that. So it seems like other people are validating this use case as well. Ben, you're not the only one who's tried this, and it looks like it's working well for other people too.
I would love to know how Andrew got it to respond to that, because when I said, hey, I need you to look at, and in this case, it's Staten Work Manager versus Salesforge. It basically shat on me. Sorry, and I don't know if I can say that in this chat. But then I dig down further. I'm curious how he asked the question to get it to do that comparison. Because clearly I think that the information is in there. It's just sensitive about how it's being asked. So something that I learn a little bit more.
Probably have to have Andrew on one of our lives. That'd be great. So we can see how he's using it. Okay. Manish asks, imagine if proposal evaluators also start using ChatGPT to evaluate proposals. This is happening. It's not ChatGPT, but there is a proprietary solution that has been developed for the federal government, and it is already happening. It is not talked about very much, but after, and you will forgive me, it has been 2 years since I have spoken with the head of that company. I don't remember exactly what the name is, but there is a program that is proprietary that was built for I believe Department of Defense, where they're already using AI to analyze. It's like an applicant tracking system for your proposal.
Yeah. SAP Ariba is also developing this. Their big claim to fame for you using them is like, hey, we're going to help you like cut through the slush, and you'll only get like the good, genuine proposals. So.
Yeah, I've got one more question here from Kathryn Potter. Kathryn, it's great to see you today. Friend of Pi, friend of many companies that I've been at. Kathryn says, at the moment, we still need a person to tweak it from what I'm understanding. Again, tweaking it needs a bit of skill, but do we think that's going to go out the window? Like, what's your prediction, Ben? Do you think we're going to rely on this exclusively, or are we going to still need a human component?
I think as it learns, it will. And I want to, like, I want to put a pin in Javier's comment that just came up on the thing before. But so to Kathryn, yeah, like right now, and someone can give me the acronym. It's like human feedback, reinforced learning, or reinforced learning, human feedback, or something like that. I can't remember what it is, the term that OpenAI uses. But as that gets better and better, ChatGPT again. So like, let's be honest. So here's the deal. We all know that criticism makes you better, right? Feedback makes you better. And so we've got two things that are going for ChatGPT. One, it reads a lot. And two, it is constantly getting feedback. And so because of that, its writing will be constantly improving and accelerating. And so it's really important to think about where we're going to be in a couple of years. So Kathryn, can you bring, so Javier's comment here is like really, really present. And the idea behind this is I recently had a situation where we were asked to review Colorado's open. So Colorado passed a new sunshine law for proposals in regards to redacted, and it's a long document. It's 23 pages and stuff like that. And I wanted to understand it for myself personally. And what I did is I would literally cut and paste portions of the text into ChatGPT, and then I just like make this make sense to me, right? Like tell me what the main legal point is. And like I didn't copy and paste everything, because there's the standard stuff that we kind of recognize from all legal documents, but like on the unique stuff. And it was like super, super powerful on just kind of like really highlighting what the key points are that I needed to be aware of. For example, submitting a secondary proposal that is fully redacted on all Colorado bids now. Thank you. Reinforcement learning with human feedback. I was close. I was so close.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. So what we're learning here is that ChatGPT not only helps you generate content, but it also helps you understand complex topics without having to have someone explain it to you. Like maybe you can distill something down and say, okay, now I understand this concept because it's created an easier narrative for me. Yeah. That I had no idea that ChatGPT could do that.
Yeah. So again, you don't have to go back to my slides, because the last two are really just like thinking about what we need to do as proposal managers. So the idea is, and Javier's got it correct here as well, like you're right. Chances are the idea is that we're going to de-skill a lot of proposal work. Like we're gonna push it downstream and stuff like that, so that like junior pre-sales people or junior salespeople can be like drafting up the majority of proposals. And then you really are only focusing on like the tier 1 bids and stuff like that. You as a proposal professional should be looking at like expanding where you're going. If you're thinking about yourself as a grammar Nazi or like a document specialist or a text, whatever, you have to think that that job is going away. And what is the other value that can bring? Is it around design? Is it around communication? Is it around thinking around the strategy about how you help people influence the bid and stuff like that? There's a lot to kind of think. Sorry, and I use that term nasty. Anyways.
Yeah, we'll watch it for the next time.
Yeah, we'll bleep that out. Anyways, so I think like, again, Kathryn goes back to the idea that like innovation is disruptive. And I mean, the great one that Warren Buffett always pulls out is the use of the tractor on farms and how it put like massive amounts of people out of work. And ultimately, it created far more jobs and far more interesting jobs for the world and allowed the world to expand. And when we look at technologies like this, chances are that's the same thing that's going to happen. Now, that doesn't mean that that is without pain. And you can do a lot right now. Like you should be thinking about like, what is it that I want to do with my career? What do I want to do with my time? And if you were thinking, hey, I'm like, my career is solid, this is going to always be there. Maybe, or maybe you can be thinking about like, what are the things that I can do right now to like add value in a different way in this process, right? Like there's a lot of aspects of the proposal process and the procurement process that you have input on, that you have insight into. And now it's kind of time to start leaning on those, because that's where you are going to add a lot of value to your company. Anyways, I don't know if we have any other questions or any other thoughts, but
yeah, let's take a look and see. We've got about 1.5 minutes left. And I just want to say that here, I agree with Ben. You know, these tools that we have that are evolving, yes, computers are coming for some elements of our jobs. And that's not anything new, right? We have all like spreadsheets and analytics and Tableau, you know, even basic programs like Microsoft Word have revolutionized the way that we do our work. And does that mean that as a profession, we should fight the adoption of these tools? I'm not going to. I want my job to be easier. And I'm never going to fight those tools. And I think as a society, if this is worrisome to us for being able to pay our bills and have a house, you know, societally, maybe we need to shift the way that we think about some of these things. But the technology itself is not the enemy in this context. I will say that early adopters here are probably going to have an easier life as a proposal person. Right? And why would you want to make it harder on yourself? That's my personal opinion about doing work, but maybe not everyone shares that. So.
All right. That's basically it. But this is going to be a series of ongoing things. Again, we are trying to communicate to people within the Pi community who have expertise on this. We have other companies with other use cases that we'd love to present and everything like that. So we will let you know when those are scheduled and what you can expect from them. All right.
Yeah, stay tuned, because our next Pi webinar will be hosted on January 18th at noon Mountain, and we will be having Robin Thomas and Grant Rotelli from OneTrust and Seismic, respectively, teaching you how to manage global teams. So if you're not already following us on Proposal Industry Experts here on LinkedIn, we highly recommend that you go ahead and smash that follow button. Join us on our journey, and be sure to sign up for our January 18th webinar, and we have them every Wednesday from noon to 1 p.m. Mountain. It was wonderful to meet everybody. Connect with Ben and I directly. We're always happy to have these conversations, and keep an eye on the horizon for the next time we talk about this topic. See y'all later.